Bonjour everyone, I am Annelise Caillez and welcome to Parlez-Vous CEO, where we teach the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Welcome to another episode of Parlez-Vous CEO. My name is Annelise Caillez and I am your host, and I'm with a very old friend of mine, Clinton Botway, today, and I'm super excited to go over his story. So after 15 years leasing and selling for landlords, developers, and family offices, 450 million across 3,000 transactions, Clinton walked away from traditional brokerage model and built Botway. It's an AI-powered brokerage that charges owners 1% instead of the industry standard, and with 24/7 automated lead response, standardized documentation, and a real-time landlord dashboard. Clinton, so in your own words, and for the people just finding out about you and discovering you, can you share a bit about your story and background?
Absolutely, Anne. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So we could start at the beginning. When I met Anne at ERG Property Advisors, Anne was my boss, or the associate director right above me. So I work for Anne, and she's wonderful. If you're considering hiring her, no better partner out there. But yeah, so got started in 2010, graduated college. Job market was awful, or maybe my grades are awful, whichever one. And so I knew I wanted to be in real estate. I knew New York City was the place to be. That's where fortunes are made and lost. And didn't have any money, but I had plenty of time. So of course I went into brokerage. So started at ERG with you and Jim Kinsey, who I still consider my mentor. Sold properties, did investment sales for about 4 years. Then I went to a little company called First Service Residential, doing the same thing, just selling and renting for landlords and individual condo and co-op owners, still representing landlords, just on a little bit of a smaller scale. After that, I went to Paramount Realty USA, which is an auction company. Sold properties by auction for 2 or 3 years. Really interesting experience there. Sold a bunch of different properties by auction, which after you do auctions, everything becomes an auction. And that's how I try and run my business now. So, 30 or 60 day marketing period, and you need to get into contract by then. And after that, I was a manager at a boutique brokerage called the Heller Organization, doing the same thing, representing landlords, trying to get the highest price for their rentals. Did about somewhere around 700 leases per year. Had a little team there and had a lot of fun. Opened a few new development buildings, a bunch of elevator and walk-up buildings that we did the rentals for, handling the entire process from pricing, negotiation, marketing, showing, and yeah, just trying to get the most amount of money as possible.
And Clinton, you spent 15 years mastering the traditional brokerage model before deciding to disrupt it. What did that experience teach you that made Botway.ai possible?
It's a good question. So I think that I've sold every sort of real estate except for a hotel. I've never done any hotel transactions, but sold buildings, homes, condos, co-ops, land, rented a lot of apartments and homes as well. I also own some properties with my family. So I've been in the business for a long time. And, AI is sort of the interesting technology of the day. Not a day goes by where you don't open the newspaper or Reddit or Twitter, where, of course, everybody is talking about AI. And, I was having the inspiration that I had for the company was basically I was talking to a friend who works at Microsoft. I was telling him what I do every day, which is price real estate, respond to people in a timely fashion with their questions, So trying to sell and put the property in its best light, and then doing a transaction. So that means signing a lease, taking a first month's rent and security deposit, or signing a contract, or handing it off to a lawyer if it's a sale. And I was telling my friend what I do every day, and he was like, everything that you're saying can be done by AI. And I was like, I think you're right. So that was the inspiration. AI is really good at taking a knowledge base, answering questions about it, taking gigantic data sets for sales or pricing, and condensing everything. I say this all the time. I don't think AI can get you 100% of the way there. Real estate is still all about relationships. It's very tactile. It's very subjective as opposed to objective. But AI can get you 80% of the way there, or 95% of the way there, if the product is quite standardized. So I don't think that AI is taking anybody's job 100%, but I think that the interesting idea that I'm trying to play out, or my thesis, is how can we make the process easier? How can we make the process better? How can I teach people how to sell real estate by themselves? Open up the playbook, and actually I've done a lot of testing and building with AI and researching with it, and it's smarter than me. So if you're not working with the most modern technology, if you're not supercharging your own knowledge and your own process with something that's smarter than you, I mean, you're not trying, right?
I love that. I love the it's smarter than me. And so, Clinton, the 1% fee structure in an industry where it's like 5-6% commissions is a
Right.
bold move. How did you design a model that delivers on value for less money?
It's a good question, and to be honest, I'm still designing it. And I'm still testing it. So, do I know that it's 100% better than a real person? Not yet. It's smarter than every real estate broker, save for the top, let's say 1 or 5%. But the idea that I think everybody would agree with, at least everybody who's not trying to sell their services, fees are too high. And the fees when you're selling a property are still quite sticky. So since the NAR settlement, there was a study done, and so that happened about 18 months ago. So over the last 18 months, fees for buyers and sellers have basically stayed the same. In some markets, they've ticked up a few basis points. In some, they've ticked down. In summation, if you're hiring a broker to sell a property, you're paying that broker oftentimes averages about 2.5%. And then the buyer's agent oftentimes gets 2.5 or 3%. So fees are still about 5%. And the process hasn't changed, since the start of the internet. So, helps to have a relationship with a seller. I think the biggest impediment to my business and the way that I'm trying to grow, which is landlords and home sellers, is 81% of sellers only interview one broker. So pays to have good relationships with sellers. But so people aren't really shopping around. People know that the fees are bloated and they haven't really come down. And I don't see anybody else in the industry besides, save for a few discount brokerages, doing anything about it. Compass is now a monopoly, or if it's not a monopoly, they control 50% market share in most of the top markets. So when you have a monopoly, they're not going to try and bring fees down either. To answer your question, bloated fees, the response gap, which most people are scrolling real estate apps on their phone late at night. They want to talk to somebody, they want to ask questions, completely reasonable. With AI, there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to do that. And then number 3, which I think is the third problem that I'm trying to solve, is owners lack real-time access to what brokers are doing. So part of the inspiration for the company was, there's 2 owners I'm specifically thinking about in my head. One said, "Hey, can you CC me whenever we get an inquiry?" Sounds pretty reasonable, right? And the other one was basically the same thing, but they made us use a CRM when they hired us, so that they could see every email that we were sending, everything that we weren't following up on, or that had slipped through the cracks, or that they just want total control. They want total information. Initially, I was resistant, but I think that's a huge part of what's missing in the industry is, okay, fees. Number two, accurate and prompt information or dispersion of information. And number three, my clients don't know what I'm doing. So why not share in real time what I'm doing? So not that I'm doing anything, if you're thinking about your property, and your sale or your lease or whatever it is, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to log on and see what I'm doing. So I built basically my business to try and solve these three obstacles. There's plenty of other things we could go over, but I think those are the three main ones that I'm trying to solve.
And so you've built an AI to handle the 24-hour process that you're mentioning, so you can stay focused on strategy, negotiation, execution. How do you think about where your expertise and the machine works best together?
Yeah, great question. So I think that AI is really good at handling repetitive tasks, filling out forms, following up with people. So what I like to call the blocking and tackling of real estate. So answering emails, answering questions that I personally have already answered 1,000 times. Anything that's easy, AI can do, and then anything related to numbers. So pricing, again, there's not, like I said before, AI will get you a good portion of the way there, let's say 80 to 95% of the way there. But same thing with a CMA or pricing, the AI doesn't necessarily know that the property across the street is significantly more valuable or less valuable, or is in significantly better condition, or just got a paint job and your property still smells bad from the last tenant, for example. But it'll get you most of the way there. And then humans use their own intuition, or I use my own intuition and my 15 years of experience to figure out that gap of, hey, is this reasonable? Is this objective? Now let's add a little bit of subjective layering over it. And, I think for higher level things like negotiation, oftentimes people will put in an offer, to keep things really simple. It has, number one, it focuses on whatever you tell it to focus on, but it does have the ability to be a bit more objective when you're comparing different offers, time, strength of offer, whether there's a financing contingency, all things that humans can do. And if you're a really good broker who has tons of experience, maybe you can do that in your head really quickly. But again, I think that it reduces the time that the human agent has to think, and it does the easy part first. So you can kind of come in and say, and check your work and say, hey, is this right? Let me take a look at this again. And here's what it missed, and make a decision from there.
And you touched on it a bit earlier about New York City's regulatory landscape and how it keeps shifting. So Fair Act, rent stabilization, compliant pressure. How does Botway's model give owners an edge in that environment?
So post Fair Act, I think everybody who's tuning in knows what the Fair Act is, but for those that don't, it's really similar to the NAR settlement. Whoever hires the broker pays the broker. So if you're a landlord renting your apartment and you aren't paying a broker to do it and you don't have anybody doing it in-house, you could be liable for something that a broker that you didn't hire does. So you should hire a broker, whether you hire a person that's charging 1 month or 15%, or if you hire me who's charging 1% or $500, you should hire somebody to represent your best interests and go out to the market and find you the best tenant for the best deal. But surprisingly, and there was a New York Post article that recently came out, I don't remember the exact figure, but it was in the hundreds of violations where brokers, this is unfortunately part of our bad reputation, is brokers are still charging tenants fees. There's still a bunch of loopholes that they can get around. But to my colleagues, to my potential clients, landlords, just hire a broker to represent you. And if you're not going to do that, get somebody on your staff to do it for you, because you're opening yourself up to a potential lawsuit or just a bad reputation, which isn't helpful for anybody. What else do you need to do? You need to be super diligent about the documentation that you're presenting to clients at first contact and at signing a lease. You have to run credit in a particular order. There's a bunch of New York City legislation doesn't lack for new rules and regulations. So there's no reason why you should be exposing yourself to litigation. And I talked about this before. You should be able to see what your broker is doing. And if you can't, it's a black box. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're saying. You don't know what offhanded comments they're saying. You don't know if they're telling somebody with a Section 8 voucher, no, we don't take vouchers. That comes back on them. That comes back on you. It's not good for anybody. What are some of the other regulations that are affecting landlords? I mean, stuff that doesn't touch me necessarily, but the 2019 rent laws basically destroyed the business plan for owning a rent stabilized building. And yeah, you just need an audited, documented trail of everything that your real estate broker is doing or that your employee is doing. And if you don't have that, you're just leaving yourself open for liability.
And so you're a first-time founder, Clinton. So how is your experience so far? What is the thing that you like the best and the thing where you're like, oh my God, I did not think about that?
So yeah, it's freedom is a double-edged sword, right? If I wake up and don't do any work, then nothing happens, and the business doesn't progress. It's just me, for better or worse, at the moment. Building the first one person unicorn company, I like to say, which is $1 billion. Not anywhere close to worth that amount of money yet, but I like to say I'm post idea, pre revenue. So listen, it's expenses, it's potential stress, it's coming up with ideas. Although I do like to say I have a partner, ChatGPT, which turned into Claude, which turned into Gemini. So I have a bunch of partners, and I do also hire contractors as well to give me advice. I rely on family and friends as a little, not a board of directors, but just people that give me advice and that I check in with. What are the benefits? You control your own destiny. If you wake up and do a ton of work and have a ton of success and people love your idea and think it's worth $1 billion, then amazing. We're not quite there yet, obviously. No.
You sing with the University Glee Club of New York City, Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall. What does music give you that building a company can't?
Well, so I've been singing essentially my whole life. Started in middle school, did it seriously in high school and college. It's the UGC, and I'm also part of an a cappella group as well called the 10. It's a great community of guys. We like to say we're a drinking club with a singing problem. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to get together, socialize. I think New York City, I think our generation and younger lacks third spaces, so not work and not school. People aren't drinking or going to bars. People aren't going to church. If you're not getting involved in a rec league, or if you don't have a ton of close friends from high school, college, or affinity groups, I love music and I love singing, but I love that there's no age limit to it. So, a bunch of my friends who maybe played basketball or football or soccer, I mean, you can still do those things, but you can sing anywhere. And we have a bunch of guys in the group that are 80 plus, 90 plus even. So it's a lifelong thing. Music never gets old.
And what is your big why, Clinton? Why are you building a business? What is the vision? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so great question. I ask myself the same thing sometimes, but yeah, I think the real answer is, I've done the same thing, not exactly the same thing, but basically the same thing for 15 years. I think now is the time. If real estate is going to get disrupted, if real estate brokerage is going to get disrupted by this new technology, it should be now. And I don't see anybody doing exactly my idea out there. There are tons of real estate brokers out there that are doing or that are using similar technology, but they're just using it to charge a full fee. My why is I want to democratize buying and selling. I want to build a open source real estate brokerage where, I talk to so many people who are smart, who are lawyers or investment bankers or they're business people. And when they meet a real estate broker or they're looking for a home for themselves, they're kind of like, why do I have to use this person who, yes, maybe they know more than me, but they don't know more than AI. Why do I have to work with this person just to open the door? And I think real estate brokers do a lot more than that. Don't get me wrong, but AI exists to assist people, and I just want to help people. I want to reduce fees. I want to increase transparency. I want to give people the tools for them to represent themselves and do it in an intelligent and professional and smart way. And I don't know if anybody else is doing that. So, what's my why? It's, selfishly, I want to get rich and famous, but really, I just want to help people. I want real estate to be more affordable. I want consumers to be better educated, and I want people to have fun doing it too.
And Clinton, if you were meeting your 20-year-old self, what piece of advice would you share with him?
20-year-old me. So I often go back and think what would have been if I didn't move to New York City, which I moved here when I was about 21 or 22. 20-year-old me, again, doesn't have any money. I mean, there's a little bit of money and tons of time. I think the mistake that I made moving to New York City is that everything is so damn expensive here. So I often, wonder if I stayed in my college town in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, shout out Lehigh University, I would have bought a ton of row homes for them to, some frat guys or sorority girls. You could do a lot more with $10,000 or $20,000 there than you can in New York City. I mean, in New York City, that's like the cost of an inexpensive bathroom to renovate. If I lived in Baltimore, I'd probably own 300 apartment units. No reason I couldn't do that in New York City, but I'm building my own company by myself at the moment with no partners. So I feel uncomfortable taking other people's money and then potentially not returning it. I think that would be, that's super stressful. And I don't think that taking people's money helps you figure out a business plan or what you're doing with, with your business. So that's why I haven't taken anybody's money, although people have maybe not directly offered it, but suggested it. And I would say specialize in something, learn a trade, learn a craft, and then buy real estate, or go all in and identify, interesting opportunities where you can amass individual deals to turn it into something that you can sell to an institution. And that's really where fortunes are made. So yeah, I would be concentrating on smaller things and owning things by myself, which I'm doing now. And, I guess I didn't know when I was 20 years old.
And for anyone who's thinking about maybe starting their own business, what would you share with them before they make a move?
Yeah, well, I've been a broker, as I said a few times, for 15, going on 16 years. The truth of the matter is, unless you have built-in clients, unless you know people in the industry, you're not going to make any money for 12 to 24 months. And when you're starting your own business, and if you have to invest in that business, you better have some money. If it's not your own money, it could be other people's money. But again, I don't think taking other people's money will help you figure out what your business is and what your business does. So you got to be really careful about it. I'm personally adverse to taking other people's money, but that's just me. But yeah, be single-minded be focused, work as hard as you possibly can each and every day, even on the weekends. Don't expect to take a vacation for at least a year or maybe 2 years, and give it your all.
And so what's coming?
But it's not for everybody. If you have a good job, that you are that you are at and that treats you well, and you don't have the savings, you should probably just stay put.
Absolutely. Entrepreneurship is not for the faintest heart. Clinton, so what's coming up for Botway.ai in the next year, and where can people find you?
So you go to my website, Botway.ai. That's my real name, my God-given name, Botway. So I had to start a robot company, obviously. And you can reach out to me by my email, clinton@botway.ai. What are we doing in the future? So I have assembled somewhere close to 1,000 pages of LLM readable text that helps sellers, landlords, buyers, renters get the best deal for themselves. Feel free to bring your own LLM, whatever you like working with. It's going to crawl my knowledge base, and you can use that as a framework to help yourself. Haven't launched it or made it public yet, but it's ready to go. We're just testing out our first landlord clients. We have a few listings on pilot. The program works mostly as intended. And, we're in an age where if you have an idea, if you can dream it, you can do it. And any firewall that exists in software, you can basically overcome that and copy it very quickly. So I won't say exactly the companies that have copied, although they've copied ideas themselves for years and years. But basically think of Zillow plus Yardi and intelligence and strategy as it relates to real estate, pricing as it relates to currently rentals, but in the future sales. Basically, I want all of my clients to log in whenever they're log into Botway whenever they're thinking about their building, for pricing, marketing, intelligent insights into what's happening to their building. There's another regulation that we didn't talk about, which is that AI, New York State specifically, and I think Connecticut and California are also coming out with their own laws. Landlords can't use AI to price apartments. And they got super specific, and they said you can use AI to price an apartment when it's rent stabilized. And the rent stabilized increase is like, something really simple, like 2.75% or 5.5% for 2 years. So they really mean it. What I'm building is basically a Bloomberg terminal for real estate. So what does that mean? The landlord, my client, has to have an idea of, they set the rent themselves, but where do they get that information? Right now, it's super disparate, and they have to have their own business plan in their head to execute upon it. What I'm trying to build is basically a dashboard where you can see what the market is, you can see where you are in the market, and we'll give you a recommendation on price based on your business plan, which is, again, a user input. That's not a machine input or something like that. So yeah, I'm super excited about everything that I shared, and maybe one day it'll actually work.
Thank you, Clinton. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure hearing about how you're building Botway.
I appreciate it, Anne. Thanks for having me on.
And that wraps up today's episode on Parlez-Vous CEO and our special commercial and prop tech series. I'm Annelise Caillez, and I can't wait to join you again next week. Thanks for listening to Parlez-Vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-Vous CEO. I am Annelise Caillez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.